What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, I've got something super exciting planned for all of you, and this is probably going to be one of our most requested videos, I think, for about the past 2 years, and that is how to make soil blocks. And we're not just going to talk about how to make soil blocks, but I also want to touch on what is soil blocking and how to make your own soil blocking mix so you can not only have the best results, but save the most amount of money when starting your seeds. Let's go. All right, so first we're going to talk about what is soil blocking. Well, soil blocking is a method of seed starting that actually uses compressed soil to act as the container. Now, normally we would use something like, I just got these in the greenhouse here, but these are your 48 cell trays. These are plastic containers that hold the soil in place. Now, these are great, but they cost a lot of money. They are made from plastic, which some people like to get away from, but also they're not really reusable. Once they start to break, you can reuse them on occasion, but once they start to break, you got to replace them. The really nice thing with soil blockers is you're literally making containers out of the soil. Now, how does that work? Well, what you're using are these. These are soil blockers. Now, they come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes, counts. This is a 4 count, this is an 8 count. They're both the same dimensions, but this is just, double the amount. And basically what you're using are these to compress the soil into a firm block that is going to hold its shape just as if it had plastic surrounding it. And that firm shape is basically what allows the plant to grow in basically a soil cell, if you will, that will grow until it's ready to either be moved to a larger container or out into the garden. All right, so now let's talk about the benefits of soil blocking, of which there are a ton of them. Now, I love soil blocking, and I honestly think it's one of the best seed starting methods for the at-home gardener because when you're growing fast turnaround crops that can be planted directly into the garden from a soil block, you're not only going to be saving a ton of time, a ton of money, but you're also going to be setting yourself up for success in the long run. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, which is probably one of the most overlooked things, is the money-saving capabilities of soil blocking. Now, you can save an absolute ton of money by making your own soil blocks. Yes, these do cost a little bit of money. Over at MIgardener.com, you can get a 4 block or an 8 block. This is 40, this is 30, but let me tell you, it is so worth it. Super durable, and essentially, how you're gonna look at this is these little 48 cell trays here. The 48 cell trays cost me about $2 a piece at our local big box store. This little tray right here costs me $2. That means in order to fill this tray up, this will fit in a standard flat dimension because these are built, they're designed to be specific flat dimensions. This 4 blocker right here will fill up 15 of these trays, and this will be paid for. Every other block you make will be money back in your pocket. I love that. All right, so now I want to talk about plant health benefits, and there are a lot of plant health benefits to soil blocking. The first one is reducing excess moisture. Now, in plastic trays, when you've got a plastic tray like this flat here, you've got your little 3-inch pots, and these 3-inch pots are surrounded by plastic. The thing is if you overwater, there is almost no forgiveness with these plastic pots because the only way for excess water to leave is either through the top or through the bottom drainage holes. And that is a real big problem, especially for beginning gardeners, because beginning gardeners are notorious for overwatering. I've been gardening for basically my whole life, and I still overwater myself at times. I'm human, and we make that mistake. The great thing is with soil blocking, it gives you that extra level of forgiveness. The sides will dry out because there's no plastic to hold in that extra moisture. The second plant health benefit that it's going to help with is with what's known as air pruning. Now, we did a whole video about the reason why fabric pots are awesome when container gardening. If you haven't seen that video, it's great. But all the benefits that can happen with fabric pots also happen with soil blocks. Now, soil blocks, because they are literally just a block of soil, these little blocks of soil right here are essentially compressed blocks. But the roots that form inside of them, when they touch the outside of the block, will basically hit that air barrier, say, whoop, can't go any further, and they're going to essentially die off, fork, and form 2 new roots. That means for every 1 root that forms, you're essentially going to have a dead end and have 2 new roots. That doubles the amount of root mass, that increases the overall health and nutrient sourcing capabilities, water sourcing capabilities of the plant. It also helps with drought resistance, heat stress, pest stress, it helps find nutrients better. The plant will overall be so much healthier because it's been air pruned. And you're getting that with soil blocks. All right, and the third and most obvious reason why I love soil blocking and why a lot of people love it is just the ease of transplanting. Now, typically when you have a flat like this, you're gonna pop the flat out, you're gonna pop these little trays out, you're gonna flip them upside down, you're gonna give them a little squeeze, hopefully you don't drop the plant, hopefully things don't break, and hopefully you don't cause any root damage in the process. But what if I told you that soil blocking was as easy as reaching in, grabbing the block, and dropping it in the garden? Now, I don't have any plants growing in this right yet, but if I had plants growing in this, all the roots would basically hold this block in place, because remember, all the air pruning means all the roots for that plant is contained inside of this block. This block will basically be one unit. I could pick it up and move that whole plant right out into the garden when it's ready. It couldn't be any simpler. There's no flipping, no shenanigans going, upside down, tipping 4 plants upside down all at once to get one of them. It's just super, super easy. And it not only reduces the risk of dropping plants and ruining plants, which, raise your hand if you've done, I certainly have done. It's not fun, and then you break plants in the process. And sometimes things don't come out as easily and you end up ripping roots, which causes stress and transplant shock. So there's tons of reasons why soil blocking is the best. And not only the fact that is it easy to do, there's tons of benefits to it, but you can also take these plants and not only grow them for yourself, but because it's so simple, you can make a ton of them. And with all those extra plants, you can give some away to friends and family or even sell them. And that brings me to the sponsor of today's episode, Farmish. Farmish is a marketplace app that connects both buyers and sellers of local produce. Whether I'm someone growing a bunch of zucchinis in my garden and I don't know what to do with all the extras, or I have a need to buy some local eggs because I don't have chickens, I can buy eggs on Farmish. Now, Farmish is a great app because not only does it connect buyers and sellers, but it also encourages local agriculture. And I'm someone that is a huge advocate of local agriculture. In the summertime, I'm checking out every farmer's market in the area because I want to get as much stuff as possible, because not only is local fresher and higher quality, but it also supports the local economy. And Farmish is a global way of doing that, and I simply love it. I downloaded Farmish probably like a year and a half ago when I had a bunch of zucchinis in my garden that I had no clue what to do with. I simply went online and I was looking for a way for me to sell this local produce, and I stumbled across Farmish. Without even thinking, I created a profile, listed the zucchinis that I had for sale, and within a couple days, a lady down the street contacted me, no clue who she was, and she ended up buying 3 zucchinis from my listing that would have otherwise either been donated to a local soup kitchen or just given away, but I was able to make some money on the side, which is awesome. Now, if you're someone that is selling and you're doing it as a profession, you get 3 free listings, but any more than that, and you can actually buy a market membership. The market membership is $29 a month or $299 a year. And if you're someone that just wants to buy something and support your local farmer, you can go on there for free and simply shop to your heart's content. So I'd recommend you go check out getfarmish.com/MIgardener today. And thank you so much, Farmish, for sponsoring today's episode. So when it comes to seeds you can start in soil blocks, the options are pretty limitless. Now, I will say that quick turnaround crops are better than long-tail crops. Long-tail crops would be things like tomatoes and peppers that stay in those blocks for upwards of 5 to 6 weeks. And short-term crops would be something like lettuce or beets, where you're going to grow them up and then you're going to transplant them out into the garden within probably 3 to 5 weeks. The reason why long-tail stuff does slightly less good in the long run is simply because over time these blocks will start to degrade as you water them down. And as the weather just kind of starts to take its toll on the blocks. Obviously, we're in a greenhouse, so they're not really exposed to any weather, but it's raining outside. And as that rain hits the blocks, or if you're doing it in a grow room and you're watering with a watering can, the water will start to break down the blocks eventually. And so the longer you have until they go out to the garden, the less great shape they're going to be in. And so obviously, the sooner you can use them, the better. I'm going to be starting some herbs. I've got some basils. I've got some parsley. I've got some dill here. And so I'm going to be starting a decent amount of herbs in this one. But like I said, you could plant literally anything you want, from onions to lettuce to spinach to radishes to beets. It doesn't really matter. The really great thing with soil blocks, though, as well, is it allows you to plant things that you otherwise wouldn't be able to start in containers. And the reason why is because there's no soil boundness. There's no pot boundness in soil blocks, and that's because of root pruning. So if you wanted to start things like corn you could never start in a container, because as soon as those roots start to wrap around, you run into something called pot bound, and that's where the plant will get stunted and stop growing after a certain point, because the roots simply they don't have anywhere else to go. Whereas in these soil blocks here, as long as you transplant them onto the garden fast enough, you could start corn in here. You could start root crops like carrots and radishes, which you couldn't do in cells either, because you don't want to damage roots, because that's what you're harvesting. Soil blocks is just a great thing because it allows you to grow basically anything you want. And so I'm going to be starting some herbs, but the world's your oyster with soil blocks. All right, and finally I'm going to show you how to make a super simple soil block mix. It's really, really simple. All we're going to do is we're going to take a basic seed starting mix or potting mix, something that's fine, that's not going to have a ton of chunks in it. The more chunks, the less your soil blocks are going to hold together. So the finer the mix, the better. I really like just going with whatever seed starting mix I'm starting everything else with, because at the end of the day, it just needs to have a little bit of perlite, a little bit of vermiculite, so it has good aeration and drainage, but you do want it to compact well. So I went with just our standard seed starting mix. Then to that, you're going to add some water. And how much? Well, you just simply want to go by feel. I can't tell you exactly how much water to add, because every mix is going to be a little bit different with how much moisture that mix is going to hold. But essentially what you want to go for is you want to go for a mix that is heavily saturated with water, that you could squeeze excess water out from. So you want to be able to basically take it and see water dripping out of your knuckles. That way you have excess water to basically pack those blocks super tight with. All right, so once you get the consistency right and you're ready to make your soil blocks, it is super simple. You simply take your soil blocker like this, nice firm grip, and simply push the soil blocker down. And what you'll notice is that the soil blocker plate itself will rise as soil fills the blocker up. And then once it gets compacted, you won't be able to get any more in there. So it's ready to go. Now the soil blocker is great because it has, get the 8 blocker for you, it has these little dibblers here that are pre-built into the plate itself. And these little dibblers are what you're going to put your seed into. So there's no more fiddling with like a pencil poking it in there or your finger poking it in there to make the holes. Super even, super uniform, and really simple. So now all we're going to do is simply pull up with our fingers. This is really important. You're going to keep pressure down with your palms, like here, the pads of your hand on the top, and pull up. You can do this one-handed as well. You're still doing the same thing. You're pressing down with this pad, and you're pulling up with your fingers, so you keep even, consistent pressure, and that gives you absolutely beautiful blocks every single time. Every once in a while, you'll have a little bit of soil like that kind of breaks away at the top. That is super common, and that is not something you need to be worried about. That's not a reason to restart. Now, I want to show you what happens if, let's say you have 3 blocks come out great, but 1 block gets absolutely ruined. Really simple. Simply, like let's say this block came out no bueno. Well, you got 3 blocks, you need 4 to be, nice and consistent. What do? Simply make a whole other set just like this, right? Nice and firm here. Make your block just like that. Bingo. It's that simple. Or you could even make it on a separate tray and move it in. But all you need to do, because they're super movable, is just make your blocks and put them in. So any blocks that break, you're all good. All right, so there you guys go. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. I absolutely love making soil blocks. I think they're probably one of the most satisfying things you can do in the garden. It's just, I don't know, there's something super satisfying about packing in that soil and coming out with these beautiful little blocks for you to grow your seedlings in. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you try it. I hope you learned something new. And I also hope you check these out over at MIgardener.com. We just got these in, and I'm super stoked about it because so many of you have been asking about it. And so we had these contract made for us. These are made from stainless steel, so they're rust resistant. They're gonna last a lifetime, and I'm really stoked about it. So go check it out, 4 block, 8 block over at MIgardener.com. Hope you guys enjoyed. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger. Take care, guys.